Now, with coverage you trust, this is 10 News Conference.
Welcome to 10 News Conference. I'm Bill Rappleye. Thank you for joining us this morning. My guest is David Dadekian. He is from a group called Eat Drink RI and knows about all things food associated with the Ocean State. David, thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now, how old is Eat Drink RI and what is your purpose?
So we started in 2010, so almost 5 years, and the purpose initially was just to get more information out there about local restaurants and farms, and since then it's really ballooned into covering all local food throughout the state, running events. We have a 4-day local food festival coming up April 30th to May 3rd. That'll be our 4th. We do other dinners and events throughout the year to highlight local food at different farms and restaurants.
What has surprised you the most in your 5-year journey here?
Surprised me the most? I think just the growth in the food sector here is it's not so much a surprise, it's just a wonderful thrill to see. It's just propelled throughout the last 5 years, and really over the last 10 years. You look at all the other economic factors that have gone, that happened over the last 10 years, and certainly things are down in many sectors, but the food sector here, and that covers everything from farming, from growing food, from growing livestock to fishing, all the way up through serving it at hospitals and colleges, into restaurants and grocery stores. You cover all that range in food, and it's the second biggest sector in the state, and it's continuing to grow.
Second biggest sector of employment?
Of employment, yes. When you put all those areas together,
from fishing to bus
from farming and fishing to bus, exactly. You put all that together, it's roughly 60,000 people employed in the food industry right now, and that's second only to healthcare.
Gosh, and to think they wanted to take the name Providence Plantations off of the state at one point.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, farming has been integral to Rhode Island for such a long time.
Do you see farming growing? I remember a few years ago hearing about the Asian community, particularly the monks, starting to grow ethnic vegetables out in western Cranston to provide for the ethnic restaurants in the cities. Is more land being turned into agriculture?
Slowly. More land is tricky. The land that does exist that is farming is staying farming, which is nice, whereas in lots of other parts of the country it's going away from farming. More land is a little tricky here because land costs are so expensive. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people turn their land into housing plots, especially 5-10 years ago. Because of the slowdown in housing, thankfully that didn't happen as much as it could have. In fact, a farm I work with very closely in Smithfield, Blackbird Farm, recently acquired more acreage due to the Smithfield Land Trust that would have been destined for new houses. So there's things like that are happening. I think we have to try and balance the cost of land with what's available to people to farm, and perhaps even get into issues such as inheritance taxes and things like that to make sure that young farmers can afford to keep farmland as farmland when they inherit it from their parents or grandparents. But it is growing. I mean, I've the DEM gave me a statistic recently. I've got a lot of great statistics from them. There's been a 72% increase in farms less than 50 acres between 2002 and 2012 here in Rhode Island. I mean, 72% is, it's wonderful.
And you would think that at some point it becomes worthwhile to turn second growth forest back into the farmland it once was.
It certainly has potential. I'm a member of the Rhode Island Food Policy Council, and we work with an organization called Food Solutions New England, who recently released their plan for what they're calling it the 50 by 60 plan. And the hope is that we can raise 50% of the food consumed in New England here in New England by 2060. Right now, just to use Rhode Island as an example, only of all the food that we produce here in Rhode Island, it only feeds 1% of Rhode Islanders. 99% of our food is imported, and not imported from other countries, but imported from other states, and some in other countries in some cases. But we'd like to see if we can by 2060 have 50% of the food that we consume here be from here.
Now that would have economic ramifications, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It just seems that I know there's been more and more of a push for health reasons as well to eat food that's grown locally, and for environmental reasons it doesn't have to be trucked across the country.
Exactly. Yeah, food does cross many different areas. It's really incredible. Like you just mentioned too, right there, health and environment, economic. You can look at it from a cultural standpoint, and obviously enjoyment. People enjoy eating, so it runs the range all over the place. But when you look at health, in the health area, it's interesting because when you buy more local food, generally you're buying fresh food, you're buying fresh produce or fresh seafood or fresh meat, and so you're cooking it yourself, and so you have hopefully a better opportunity to cook better, cook healthier for you, and so that should help your health. You know.
So are there any programs that you know of that's trying to encourage the development of farmland?
Our DEM, our Department of Environmental Management, has a fantastic division of agriculture, and they've been very helpful to, again, not just farming. I want to highlight also that we've got great fishing, great aquaculture here, and that's considered farming in the sense of
and also
DEM.
Growing significantly, right? The
Absolutely,
oysters
yeah. The oysters and the clamming and things like that is growing huge. I mean, you go to oyster bars in New York and Washington and down to, where was I, Charleston, South Carolina, and you'll see Rhode Island oysters on the menu.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So when you cover all that, DEM and the Division of Agriculture has been fantastic. The USDA has offices here. NRCS, the Natural Resources Commission, as offices here. So there's lots of groups that are trying to help farmers.
And as you say, farming is growing. Now, is it most of the growth of young people kind of getting into the business?
You know, we are seeing more of that as time goes on. Though right now it is still relatively an older group farming, and that is, you know, goes back to what, you know, I was saying before with land and costs, you know, as they want to pass that land on to their children or to other people, younger people that want to continue farming. There is a slight burden right now. Mm-hmm. It is an older group, but we are seeing more encouraging growth in the younger sector. There's a young farmers network in Providence, urban farmers in Providence. So there is some growth.
And what do you think about this whole urban farming movement? People keeping chickens in their backyards, growing vegetables. Is that something that you have noticed increasing? Oh,
absolutely, and it's great. I mean, obviously you want to be a good neighbor, but chickens are, you know, just to use one example, are a relatively clean and quiet animal. I mean, yeah, you'll get a rooster every now and then, which may be disturbing to a neighborhood, but hopefully people aren't keeping backyard roosters. Right. And urban farming, I mean, what could you say against that? I mean, you know, if you've got a plot of land and you want to, you know, grow vegetables on it, why not? And again, environmentally, there is a lot to be said about growing something that you can use and produce instead of just watering a nice lawn.
Well, and I think that there's some acknowledgement of that by the Elorza administration that's incoming. They want to do a program turning empty lots into community
well,
gardens.
that's been in existence. The Tavares administration started that, the Lots of Hope program. They work with Southside Community Land Trust, which has a great urban farm on the south side of Providence, and they've got one farm already or built over on Manton Avenue. So it's a great program, Lots of Hope, and which is a great name. It's a good marketing term. I give them a lot of credit for that. So
maybe
you know,
developing
hopefully it keeps
a generation of new farmers, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, hopefully. And I think it goes back to what you were saying, you know, with different cultural groups growing different produce and things that come from their countries that they want. You know, we could see more of that here. You know, you could go to different areas. You know, they may not. You know, have particular vegetables they want to have here, and they can start it here, and that brings in more income revenue too.
And yeah, I know that we went to something with the senators, the U.S. senators, about an ethnic garden in the South Side. I think they were from Eastern Europe. I think the people that were planting.
I've seen that group. All right.
Is it this is starting to take off then?
Yeah.
The idea that neighborhoods can grow their own food.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a little break. We'll come back. We'll talk more with David Dadekian from Eat Drink RI about the food business in Rhode Island. And welcome back to 10 News Conference. We are speaking with David Dadekian from Eat Drink RI, who was telling me all kinds of interesting things about Rhode Island food. We have some fairly well-known food companies in the state.
Yes, we do.
That may be better known in some cases outside the state than they are within, like Daniela?
Daniela, yeah. They're a meat company, a charcuterie company up in Burrillville. They've been around for almost 40 years. They export to, I think, just about every country in the world. They are actually probably, right now, because they're undergoing expansion, they may be the largest construction construction business going on right now in the state, in Burrillville.
How big is their expansion?
It will be, when it's all said and done, I was just up there last week, it'll be around 500,000 square feet when it's all said and done.
Oh,
it's
my.
huge. It's gorgeous. They're at 10% right now, and they're going to be 100% by sometime in April.
So
and they'll have 1 million hams. That's what Davide told me. They're going to have 1 million hams hanging in there by April, May.
So they employ a few people up there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's got to be, I don't know the exact number, but I'd have to assume there were several hundred people employed up there.
Now, they got their start through an old family recipe handed down, or
Right,
what?
yeah. Their family came over from Italy, initially from Yugoslavia, and Vlado, the dad, is still up there. I saw him on Friday running around, and now Stefano and Davide run the company. They're the two sons. It's a great business, phenomenal business. Obviously doing well. I mean, they've put about $60 million into the state with this new expansion.
And this is very high-end cured meat?
Yes, it's. I mean, it's a very technical process. It's actually a very ancient process. It's been done hundreds to thousands of years. Initially to save meat because there was no refrigeration. Now we do it because it tastes so good. So they produce, like I said, beautiful prosciuttos, salamis, things of that nature.
Now, a food company that's closer to the hearts of many Rhode Islanders is the Coffee Milk Autocrat Coffee Milk.
Coffee syrup.
Coffee
Yeah.
syrup. But you say now they have some competition in Rhode Island.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's always been a Rhode Island centric thing. People didn't quite get it, and then a couple of years ago, Dave's Coffee, which is a coffee roaster down in South County, and now they have a spot in Providence, started making their own artisan coffee syrup. They make regular, decaf, vanilla, and mocha. And it's in stores around the country now. I believe Crate and Barrel sells it around the country. You can get it online. I've sent it to friends on the West Coast. It's a great product. It tastes fantastic.
Is it identified as a Rhode Island thing? I mean, coffee syrup, I've never had it anywhere
Well,
else.
it's nice. You see these products like the Daniele meats or the coffee syrup or Yacht Club soda or Granny Squibb's iced tea. And they all say "Made in Rhode Island" on them because we're proud of that. It gave some character to the story. So yeah, Rhode Island's on those labels.
Yeah. Now, Rhode Island's also very well known for shellfish. I think
Yes.
the quahogs don't seem to like to grow anywhere else.
And we're probably the largest exporter of squid in the world.
Well, and I know
it seems that way sometimes.
It took some doing up at the State House to get proper acknowledgement of that. But the aquaculture business is growing a lot. URI helps with that.
Absolutely. URI has a great aquaculture program. Perry Rosso, who owns Matunuca Oyster Bar, really was a spearhead for a lot of that over the last 10 years. Roger Williams University also has a great aquaculture program for oysters and clams and mussels. So it's become scientifically possible to farm these shellfish in beds. And it's a great example of technology coming along to allow you to do something that's natural and healthy. So there's several dozen oyster farmers along the South Coast right now and up into the Bay. It's such great quality to see as well. I mean, they taste so good.
And you feel like Rhode Island is establishing itself or cementing itself as a center of excellence for, be it aquaculture or, well, some prepared foods.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I travel all over the country, all over the world. I eat when I go to these places because I love food. And honestly, I can say that some of the things we have here are on par with many things that I've had from different areas. It's great to see.
Where do you see the growth for these food companies?
Well, I think right now, we're poised at a very interesting time in technology and in consumer desire. I mean, people want these artisan products. They want to know where their food comes from. They want to know who makes their food. Hope in Maine opened up to incubate new culinary businesses, and they had a Meet Your Maker market recently, so that people could see who made the food. On the technology side, you've got new advances in canning and production that makes things faster and smoother. And now you're getting to the point where delivery systems are also becoming much more efficient. In theory, we're going to have same-day delivery from different online businesses soon. To be able to do those sort of things, you look at Fox Point pickles or a Yacht Club soda or a Daniele or things like that, which are shelf-stable products. They don't need refrigeration or anything like that. Well, that's manufacturing. That's that can be shipped anywhere in the world. So in fact, I know for a fact that China buys a lot of Daniele meats. So it's a great expansion for all sorts of businesses that are creating new foods, and there are also more perishable foods that are being created as well that people still love to get, cupcakes and cookies and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But we really want to see Rhode Island established as a place for new food businesses. In fact, I'm working with a group called Startup Weekend, and January 30th through February 2nd, we're going to hold a Startup Weekend food, the first of its kind anywhere. Startup Weekend concept comes from the tech world, where a group of tech get together on Friday night, they pitch businesses. Over the course of a weekend, they create new companies, from scratch. Obviously, it's a very hectic, fast-paced thing, and then they come to the end and they're judged. So my friend Sergio Ferreira, who runs the Startup Weekend for Providence for the tech companies, came to me and several others and said, could we do this for food? So we're going to do that at Hope in Maine at the end of January. Hopefully we'll get lots of great people come in with food businesses. And it just doesn't have to be food products. It could be food businesses. It could be, if you've got a great idea for a food app or, some type of food science product. Come on in and pitch it. Try and build your business in 3 days.
So now Hope in Maine is like a food business incubator in Warren that it took a few years to get up and running.
It did. It's a complicated process. A lot of that has to do with regulation.
It's in an old school, right?
That I'm sure that was part of the issue as well. As I know, trying to find a location for the Eat Drink Rhode Island market, real estate development can be a long process. But it's, they got a loan from the USDA, and they're up and running now. They've got about 25 businesses that they're going to be incubating.
That many?
Yeah, it's great to see.
So that presumably do they graduate out of there and open up space for the next startup? Right.
That's the theory, that they build their businesses. They have they have kitchens that are up to code, so they can produce their products in it, be it fresh products or canned products, and they'll also have technical support from within the Hope in Maine system.
Interesting. Well, we'll be keeping an eye on how they progress. We're going to take another break. We'll be back for our final segment, talking to David Dadekian from Eat Drink RI. Welcome back to 10 News Conference. We're talking about food. I'm getting hungry up here with David Dadekian from Eat Drink RI. So we've talked about farming, we've talked about some food companies, but everybody knows Providence now for its restaurants.
Yes, indeed.
And that just seems to feed on itself. Chefs leave, start new ones. They're popping up all the time.
Yeah, and so it's amazing to see. It's wonderful, and it's especially, as I was saying earlier, in this economic climate, to see the restaurant business grow and grow and grow. I was with my friend Matthew Varga last week. He's the executive chef at Gracie's, and he said Saturday night they were packed full at 9:30. People were still coming in. At 9:45, they started to say, look, we may not be able to seat you and get your dinner tonight. You may have to go to another restaurant. But they were welcoming everyone and giving them glasses of champagne, being as hospitable as Gracie's always is. But I mean, and Gracie's isn't exactly an inexpensive spot. It's a full,
it's not the only one either.
And it's not, no. And I'm sure up and down Washington Street, I'm sure Local 121 and Fidgetini and all the rest were just as full on a Saturday night, which is wonderfable to see.
And a lot of them are using local foods now. That's a selling point.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. People know when they walk into a restaurant, when they go to these restaurants hoping to get local products. My friend Derek, who runs Nick's on Broadway, brings in an immense amount of local products, and people go there because they know they're going to get great, fresh, quality product from what he's producing.
Another way people can get fresh food is these farmers markets. There's a bunch of them now.
Yes, we're at I believe almost 50 right now in the state throughout the year, and the Pawtucket Wintertimes Farmers Market, which just reopened November 1st, is now the largest indoor farmers market in New England.
Really?
Yes.
And they pretty much, you got to get there early because
you do. It's a busy time. It's a great social event too. I love going and seeing a lot of my friends and catching up.
Sometimes they have music playing up on the side.
Yeah, it's a great event. The Farm Fresh has done a wonderful job with that market. Yeah, and there's other markets around the state too for the winter. I mean, there's some in South County, North Kingston, Newport. So we really do have year-round farmers markets.
So now, tell us about the farmers market that you have been trying to get off the ground, and what's the need for it if we have all these?
Well, it's more than a farmers market. I mean, as I was saying, we have year-round farmers markets, and they're phenomenal. But there's very few farmers, if any, in the state that could sustain 6 or 7 days a week, 8 hours a day as a market. What I'm looking to do is more of a public market, more like if you've been to Chelsea Market in New York or Pike's Place in Seattle, much more storefronts. There will be a produce market in there with local produce, but not just one farm. It'll be all the produce farms around can have there'll be a produce market, a meat market with meat from all around Rhode Island, a wine bar, an oyster bar, an ice cream stand, a bakery, things of those nature. So prepared foods and grocery. I've
sort of
had,
open stalls.
Right, exactly. I've had conversations with so many great people, from Mark Federico at Narragansett Creamery and Sean Larkin at Revival Brewing, and everyone's like, we want to be in there, we want to be part of this, we want to show people what we have. And so while it will certainly be a benefit to the local public to be able to shop and eat, we also want to make it a tourism drive and get people from all over the area to come to Rhode Island to go to this market and spend a day at the market, enjoy and see what there is.
Now, you have got to find a location for this.
Still working on the location. I received the fellowship from the Rhode Island Foundation back in April. Been working hard at it. We have our business plan together. We have our financials together. I've got a fantastic planner working with me and a couple other staffers. And we're close. We're getting there. We're working with the state. We want to find the right spot that will be accessible to the widest population and also be accessible to tourists.
And you think that could be open 7 days a week?
I think so. I mean, we might start, 5 or 6, and get our footing, but I think we could be 7 days a week, depending on the population and the draw.
And you think people might be going from New York to Cape Cod and stop off in Rhode Island, Providence to get some fresh food?
Stop and get your products. You go into the shore for a weekend from New York, stop and stock up. We're going to be the place for it. And we're going to also build in some commercial kitchens so that we have opportunities for those food businesses that you mentioned before, so maybe some that graduate out of Hope and Maine to use kitchens. We want to have some event space so people can have some food-centric events.
Weddings?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, I produce mine, but I've had other people come to me and say, hey, you do such a great food event. I'm getting married and I'm a chef, or I work at Johnson Wales or whatever. Can you do something food-centric? So we're going to have, other pieces of the puzzle to make sure that it's a sustainable building.
So as we come to the end of this program, does that fit into your vision or is that kind of what you think the Rhode Island food industry can be as a point of pride and tourism and economic growth?
Absolutely. I mean, that's it. It covers so much. You've got your economic growth, you've got the tourism, you've got the health care, as we mentioned before, you've got the environment. Just use my market as an example, but there's other places around the state that are using solar and wind now, and composting, and doing things to help the environment that way. I think another piece of the puzzle that we didn't mention. It's one of those things that we know is out there, is important, but there's a lot of food insecurity for people in the state. The Rhode Island Food Bank is an incredible organization. They just put out their annual report yesterday, and while it's shows some improvement, it's still sad that there are so many people in this state that are hungry every day.
Right.
So
and they need more than just food donations now. They're going out to buy food, right?
Right, exactly. The food bank's incredible. If you ever have an opportunity to stop in there and tour it, it's just an amazing building with incredible staff doing really, really important work. So I think there's a lot of pieces of this puzzle that all tie back to food, and again, from that range, from coming out of the ground or the sea to going on your plate. There's a whole area there with a whole bunch of sectors. And Rhode Island, because of our size and because of our community and the fact that we all kind of know what everyone's doing. And I know people say, you got to know a guy. Look at that in a positive light. We know people in this industry. We're connected in this small industry. We're connected in this small state. Use it in a good way, and let's show people what we have. Let's get this out there and show people we're the food capital.
Is there an effort to get fresh food to school children?
Yeah, absolutely. Farm Fresh has a program. There are salad bars in most schools around the state. It's one of those things. We have 3 large corporations that manage the school lunch, breakfast program in the state. So, it's changing their culture, changing what they do. We're fortunate to have, the unsung companies here in Rhode Island that we, like UNFI, which is the largest distributor of wholesome foods.
It came here from Connecticut, right?
Right, exactly. Companies like that are here that we can connect with, and it's a very positive growth right now. It's not an easy thing to change, but I think it's something we can do. And I'm a member of the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. We're very active in trying to change things around the state. We're not a government group. We're an independent organization, but we lobby the General Assembly. We're preparing a briefing document for Gina Raimondo. There's a lot of things that can happen here, and we're getting there.
Well, keep food on everybody's mind. David Dadekian from Eat Drink RI, thank you for joining us. That's 10 News Conference this morning.